It's really when I got financially stable that I was able to breathe a little bit and start to handle the more complex challenges or traumas or mental health things I was dealing with. I needed a base level of stability in my life in order to have the internal emotional bandwidth and honestly the physiological bandwidth because of how much stress I had been under to address some of the things that really had been weighing me down. What's up, you guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Chloe, for those of you who don't know. Those of you guys who know what's up probably know me from my viral TED Talk on well-being or know my work having led over $2 billion in community investment to help make our communities safer and healthier. I pivoted so that I could help you do the same. Now, in today's video, we are going to be talking about the importance of you building wealth. And not really in the traditional sense of why it's important for your financial goals, your economic stability, etc. I want to talk about building wealth as a means of healing your inner child, breaking cycles of generational trauma, scarcity, poverty, or lack. And as someone who might be first generation to building wealth, I want to help you have the tools to understand the full picture of why building wealth and prioritizing your well-being go hand in hand. So if you're someone who cares about healing from the inside out, building ethical wealth, and helping others do the same, you have found the right community. Now, oftentimes in the conversations about healing and well-being, it baffles me that finances are not top in that list of considerations. You know, some of you have seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a framework in psychology or just social sciences in general that outlines what humans need to self-actualize, or as we call it, get to the bag, to thrive, to be your best self. Now, the bottom tier, the very first step in Maslow's is basically your survival needs, right? So do you have shelter? Do you have food? Do you have somewhere to sleep? And in our society, that also equates to, do you have access to money? Now, for better or for worse, in our society, the level of well-being that you experience is often correlated to how many resources you have access to the legacy of wealth or the lack thereof in your family, right? And I think it's important to also define wealth in this conversation in that I don't just simply mean money. I don't simply mean having access to capital. When I talk about wealth, I think about it in a comprehensive lens. And while this video will primarily focus on accumulating financial resources, I just want to give the reminder that wealth is also your freedom to choose how you spend your time in this one precious life. Wealth is also the quality of connections you have with other people. Wealth is the quality of connection you have with yourself, right? It's the quality of life inside. Right? And one of the tools or vehicles that can help improve your quality of life is money. So in this video, we're going to be talking about, as I mentioned, how money in the whole purview of wealth is important to your healing. Now, when I think through, how I healed along my journey, it's really when I got financially stable that I was able to breathe a little bit and start to handle the more complex challenges or traumas or mental health things I was dealing with. I needed a base level of stability in my life in order to have the internal emotional bandwidth and honestly the physiological bandwidth because of how much stress I had been under to address some of the things that really had been weighing me down. And so for this first tip, having financial stability is important because it helps calm your nervous system. Just think about it. When you have fewer things to stress about, your body's under less stress. And for so many of us, finances have either been stressful at some point, or for unfortunately a lot of people in our communities, it leads as the number one stressor in people's lives. Well, aside from the existentialism none of us want to deal with, but that's for another video and another series. But money and problems related to it are often cited as one of the number one stressors in people's lives. Now, I also think it's important to just insert somewhat of a footnote here in that when communities have been legally barred from accessing resources, the stress of not having money when your community or your zip code has been in poverty is not just individual stress, it's collective. The impacts of being denied resources have structural and communal ramifications. You feel it as a collective. So when I think about how you not only change the narrative for your own life and increase the stability in your own life and the potential for healing, the same is true when you think about community health and safety. Like, I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, y'all. I rep my city so hard, and every time there's an episode of gun violence, I immediately think back to this is what happens when a third of your city, 45% of its children, live in poverty. It's not that people are bad. It's not that people want to do bad things. It's not even that people are evil. People have been put into systems or conditions where the amount of stress on them, the amount of effort, or the kind of like mounting pressure to feel like you need to prove you deserve dignified conditions, the kind of alert or alarm that your nervous system is constantly in because you've got to figure out how to get your next penny, your next buck, your next meal. It's inhumane. And, something that I keep coming back to is the thought that there's no well-being in poverty, right? And I don't care what anybody says, government benefits do not take you out of poverty, right? There's no well-being on government benefits. You're just surviving. Paycheck to paycheck, set of benefits, a set of benefits. So when I'm talking about there's no well-being in poverty, I'm saying because there's financial scarcity and you are always living from paycheck to paycheck. And the truth is, there are many people who aren't beneath the federal poverty line who are also living paycheck to paycheck. You might be one of them. I know for sure for the majority of my life, I certainly was. And the kind of precariousness that you understand you are in, where one crisis, one unexpected medical bill, one expected bill period could threaten your whole stability and you're having to hustle and figure things out, it heightens the amount of stress your body is under. So physiologically, there's literally no well-being in poverty, but also, or living paycheck to paycheck, but also the people around you, when they're also stressed out, it makes your interpersonal connections more strained. It makes the ability to thrive where you are, not having to leave your zip code, more difficult. And so because of that, the more people that focus on building ethical wealth or building generational wealth ethically, you will start to see communities becoming safer. You will start to see people not in survival mode and having the bandwidth and capacity to develop healthier relationships. You will start to see the connection to yourself improving, the connection to your ability to heal, your ability to self-actualize. You'll see the bandwidth showing up, right? And so when I think about healing and I think back to Maslow's hierarchy, which okay, I do believe is limited, but it's helpful for the purposes of this video. Taking care of your base needs, it's important. Not only is this just scientifically proven across many disciplines, you also know it in your own life. The amount of people, I'm not gonna call them out, because some of them are my loved ones, and when you watch this, you go, no, I'm talking about you. But so many people have told me, I would make an impact if I didn't have to worry about finances, right? And I just want to go ahead and bust the myth of that being selfish. That's not selfish at all. That's your number one responsibility. You are in charge of your own livelihood, right? So please know it is not selfish to say, I need to figure out my circumstance first before I help somebody else. It's just like on an airplane when they tell you put your mask on first before you help someone else, because you can't help other people if you pass out from a lack of oxygen. Same is true financially. I remember I heard a quote one time, and at first it pissed me off because I thought it was callous. But when I really took a step back, I realized that there was a lot of merit in the quote, and it said, the best way, y'all, and it almost pains me to bring this up in a YouTube video, but it said the best way to help poor people is to not become one of them. And the reason it initially pissed me off was because it sounded, in my mind, it sounded stingy, it sounded callous, it sounded without compassion. However, when I thought of the same concept in the airplane example with the mask, or when I thought about, how it's so difficult to help end poverty while you're in it, it clicked for me. And this is another point that I want to make in the video, is that if you are someone who's experiencing poverty, I just want to say it does not matter what anyone tells you. It's not your fault. The burden of poverty can never be placed on individual shoulders because our systems and our structures make it such that structural poverty exists. It makes it such that, like, when our minimum wage is still $7.25 in Tennessee, and yet inflation is higher than ever before, when it costs 6 figures to get a college degree, which is no longer listed as the entry-level requirements anymore, you guys, it is truly a system that is not set up for people to guarantee that they are not in poverty. So we have to understand there are systemic influences or variables, if you will, that have created the conditions that make it easy for people to, even in the most advanced developed nation in the world, to be in poverty. And y'all, as tech keeps getting more complex, as the rise of AI is coming, the wealth gap in our country is only going to increase unless we focus on individuals building wealth and building it ethically. So, I started this conversation just by saying that, focusing on building wealth will help you heal as an individual because it supports your nervous system. It allows you to take care of your survival needs. And honestly, it gives you the bandwidth to look around you and see how you can be helpful, right? That's the first part of how building wealth ethically is going to help you heal. Now, the second part, which is kind of how you stay well while you're building wealth, is equally as important as the first half of this conversation, because in the pursuit of money, so many people have lost themselves. And I think it's important to really balance out the conversation of building wealth with the understanding that wealth is not just money. I believe that money is important to talk about in conversations of healing because, of course, your survival needs depend on it. However, when people, replace their identity or replace their primary objective in life with chasing money, it is absolutely a recipe for disconnection from loved ones, from a lack of fulfillment in life, and for chasing a goalpost that never stops. Because once you start chasing money just for the pursuit of chasing money, there's never an end point, right? And even when you think, oh, well, once I hit $1 million, then it'll change. You're gonna hit that milli and then say, I can do more. I want more. And it's neurochemical, right? Like the amount of time that satisfaction lasts after hitting a distinct milestone or goal, it's not that long, right? After a few days, you're literally wired to want more. It's evolutionary. It's how people have the will to keep going, right? The challenge with this is that it can really turn your sense of what life is all about on its head. So, in the pursuit of building ethical wealth, you have to have strong values at your foundation to help keep you grounded. And this is why, you guys, whenever I teach clients, I talk to them about their overall life goals, right? Comprehensively, I do not build a business plan for my clients without also knowing what they care about in life, what they care about with their families, what goals they have for their community, how they like to spend their time outside of work. You have to build a full life, because what is the use of affording a life that is empty, right? That's not what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is have the resources so that a crisis is not going to have you in dire financial positioning, and to have the resources to make sure that your family can be healthy, can have access to great health care, to afford great education for your kids if you choose to have them, for people you would like to bless, whoever, right? We want you to have resources to settle your nervous system, be kind to other people, and to make your values what's the word I'm looking for? Reverberate, to help your values reverberate through everything you do, And I think it's important to just remember that money, y'all, this is such a point that like changed everything for me when I learned it. Money is not the root of all evil. And I'm sorry for whoever that offends. Money is not the root of all evil. Money is not evil, okay? How you choose to spend money or withhold money, the greed or the generosity, the discernment or the frivolousness, that is where you start getting crossed up, right? Money or currency truly means as much or as little as we allow it to in our lives. And from my perspective, a healthy connection to money is understanding that it is powerful as a vehicle to express integrity, authenticity, connection, safety, health, etc. It can be a vehicle to amplify a healthy foundation. It also can be a vehicle to, deepen the cracks in your foundation or to bring down the whole house. So I just want you to know that money is a tool that amplifies whatever is already existing. So because of that, as you are building ethical wealth, I want you to make sure that you are caring about well-being. And for me, when I talk about well-being, I'm talking about how you connect to yourself, how you relate to yourself, how you relate to other people, the health of your communities, the ways that our systems and institutions uphold the human dignity and ecological safety of all living things, and of course our climate, right? So well-being to me is pretty vast. And so when you're thinking about how you generate resources, I want you to keep those things in mind. How do you help all of these things become more healthy? And this will lead you to principles that help you build wealth in an ethical way, right? It will help you find principles that keep your well-being intact. And if I could just be serious for a moment, keeping your well-being intact in this life has to be your number one goal. You are the only person who is gifted with this beautiful life that you have. You're the only person who's with you 24/7, 365, every single waking, sleeping moment of your life. It is such a gift to be you. And it would be such a shame to reduce the magic of who you are, the miracle of your existence, to producing just to get money. You are so much more than that. You are so much more than that. And so when I think about how you protect that, how you protect yourself and make sure that not only you don't lose your identity to it, but you don't lose your life to it because you forget that you're much more than productivity or achievement, I think about making sure that you have your basics on lock. And you guys, if y'all have watched my TED Talk, you have seen me talk about this. You know that I used to struggle with this. You know that for me, it created deep mental health challenges for me. So this is not just theory. I know this in my real life. You have to know that you are worthy of living and of the goodness in life just as a fact of nature. This is not something you can even decide. You don't have the authority to, but we actually talk about that in a lot of other videos. But this is just a fact of life that you have to accept. And you are much bigger than how you choose to spend your time. You are much greater than what you produce or achieve. And you are interdependent with everybody around you. Not codependent, interdependent. And we can talk about that in another video. I don't want this video to be 30 minutes, but you are interdependent with those around you. And that's actually a beautiful thing. The social connection, healthy connection, it really helps create a fulfilling life. And when you can make sure that you are well, the people around you are well, and you can help others do the same, y'all, it creates the kind of connection that I know you've been yearning for. So this YouTube video was a bit more conversational. Usually I structure them and I teach a bit more, but today I just wanted to have a heart-to-heart with you. Especially for my folks who care so much about changing our systems and sometimes forget about the fact that you need resources to survive, or care about well-being and aren't told that finances need to be a part of that conversation. I just wanted to have a sit down with you and have a heart-to-heart because it really is that important. And if you want some strategies and tips, you guys, I read a book and it's a strategy guide on how to heal yourself, build ethical wealth, and lead change that doesn't hurt communities. And it's totally free in the description box just for you. And with that, y'all, I'm gonna see you in the next YouTube video.